I am Ellie, and today I want to speak on a very important topic, something I am very passionate about, very knowledgeable about, and that is about being an empath. So there are many levels for being an empath. So there is a range, just like many things, where you can fall on. So whether you are a mild empath or you are a very strong empath is possible. So for me, I am a very strong empath. I have always felt energy very strongly. And we can, as an empath, feel energy in many ways. We can feel energy through other people, so we can feel their emotions be without their words. We can strongly feel the energy, the frequency that they're holding. We can know through our empathic gifts someone's intentions, whether their words are matching their actions. We can feel the environment very strongly. So just by stepping into an environment, we can feel the energy of that environment. And we are very affected by this energy as empaths. So it's very important to learn how to work with energy if you are an empath, because if you are an empath, you are highly affected by energy. Everything is energy. We are energy. We're all energy interacting with other energy, whether that is from people, places, sounds, visuals, through movies. Anything that we consume, we see, we hear, we receive is energy that we are receiving. And if you are an empath, it actually is a superpower. It does not feel like that until we learn how to work with energy, until we learn how to bring our own energy back to ourselves. Very important. I'm going to talk about this a lot. So until we learn how to work with our gift of being an empath, it can feel like a curse, because we can become very overwhelmed by the energies around us, from people, from places, from sounds, from things. And that energy, without our core ability to bring our energy, our own energy, back to ourselves, can cause us to feel very chaotic, very overwhelmed, wibbly wobbly, and unwell also. So the most important thing that we can learn as empaths is to bring our own energy back to ourselves. So if you are an empath, you're a strong empath, then you can feel other people's energy, emotions, the land. So their energy, the energy you are feeling outside of yourself, is not yours. So empaths need to learn the difference between our own energy and the energy of others outside of us. And so it's really important to just start a practice and continue to do a practice. There are many different kinds. I'm going to name two for you now, where you can bring your energy back into yourself. So the first is to simply, with your intention, visualize your energy coming back to yourself. You can call it back to yourself as well. I call my energy back to self. And because you can feel as an empath, with your mind's eye, you set that intention and then feel and visualize your energy returning to you. And then we can seal it also. So when I first started to learn how to protect my own energy as an empath, I would do visual sealings. I don't have to do this often anymore, or really at all, because I have developed so well the ability to bring my energy back to me, just with my intention, with my mind's eye, with visuals. I'm a very visual person. So we can seal the energy in just again with our mind's eye, with our intention, and you can imagine that you are surrounded by a bubble of light and you are not allowing energy to come in or to leave. It's just a container for your own energy. So you can say this out loud, you can say it in your mind, and just visualize this light bubble around you. And so this is a starting practice for you to start protecting your own energy. And the more that you come home to yourself and the more that you come to be with yourself, so I talked about this in the last video or the video before that, about the importance of being able to come back to yourself, to meet yourself, to be with the part of you that never changes. So the deep essence of yourself. So we can do this through mindfulness practices. We can do this through meditation practices, through reflection practices, journaling practices. It's really important, if you are an empath, to really come back to yourself, to be centered and also grounded, very grounded. So I want to say the other practice before I go into grounding practices. So the other practice that's really beautiful for empaths is to distinguish self versus other, because as empaths, we can get really immersed in other and we can lose the boundary of self and other. And this is very important. We need to practice and learn to remain in our own energy. So from Aaron Doughty, he has a meditation video, actually, I think it's called the frame technique, not positive, but he simply has this meditation you can just do anytime, and you can just look at a candle flame or really anything, any object, and you take a deep breath in and you acknowledge that you are, you see the flame, and then you notice, you say to yourself that I am separate from the flame. It's just a practice of energetically separating yourself from other. So we really need to work on that boundary. In fact, boundaries are so important if you are a strong empath. You are going to be served by learning what your own boundaries are, what you need to have as boundaries to protect your own energy, and to learn how to bring your energy back to yourself and to ground yourself. So now going into grounding. If you are an empath, you can become very overwhelmed by energy, and so it's important to learn how to ground yourself. And so meditation is a good way to ground yourself, but I actually just like this simple practice for me. Two simple practices. One is just going outside into nature and putting my bare feet on the ground, the grass or the dirt. This is going to automatically ground you into the earth, and this is going to give you a feeling of being rooted back into self. You can come back into your energy, another way of coming back into your own energy. The second practice I do frequently, I really love, and it is a rooting down practice. So again, with your intention, with your mind, with your visualization, you imagine that your legs become roots of a tree and ground into the earth. As you do this, I like to feel the cold earth, the cold dirt, and feel my roots going into the earth. And we are again grounding into the earth, which is breathing life force energy into us. The earth is supporting our life. Without the earth, we would not have air or food or water. So it's very important and very powerful to ground ourselves into the earth. So this is a practice that you can just do quickly and just ground yourself. The other thing that is important is to create boundaries. Again, talking about boundaries is protecting your energy. So because you can feel so deeply, this means that frequency, vibration, energy affects your energy powerfully. And so we need to become guarded with our energy. So for example, the things that I watch, consume, listen to, the people that I am around, the places that I go, I pay attention to the energy. How do I feel? And then I see, is this something that I want to feel? It's okay to remove yourself from places or people, or to stop watching things, consuming things, hearing things, reading things that are going to feel in your body as not in alignment, not something that you want to feel. And so that doesn't mean that I don't watch things that make me not feel good. I think there is so much benefit in connecting to all energies, but I'm very careful and very intentional about how I consume. So like, for example, if I'm going to watch a show that is very heavy, like I started to watch the show The Vikings a little while ago. And I really liked it, but the energy was very heavy, affecting my energy, affecting my thoughts, my mood. Okay, so we are very powerful when we choose. So what I did was I would only watch that show when I felt grounded enough, when I felt that my energy was back with myself and I could handle these heavier energies. And then as I was watching the show, I realized that even though I really liked the show so much, that it just wasn't the energy I wanted to connect to, and there wasn't enough benefit. So sometimes I will watch things and I will receive like information, knowledge, a way to connect to certain energies, and there's a clear benefit to watching it. I am receiving something. But when I felt into this particular show, I realized I wasn't receiving any new information that I needed. I wasn't connecting to humanity in a way I haven't already connected to. So I decided to stop watching the show. So I'm just very careful with my own energy, protecting my own energy. And the other thing I do with boundaries is, so I will come to know myself again, coming into myself and feeling for myself and really feeling like, what do I want? And so when it comes to relationships, I communicate very clearly how I am feeling. I express in a clear, open way. And then if someone does not have the capacity to meet me in the place I am with the boundaries that I have, then I remove myself from that situation. So I want to talk a little bit about why we're an empath, why you are an empath. So if you are an empath, you are meant to feel. You are meant to receive a lot of information. All energy is information. So there is some reason that you are an empath. You are connected to the field of energy. And this is beautiful. If people who are connected to the field of energy have a very powerful ability to move about in this world very clearly towards what you want. You also, as an empath, have a very clear ability to connect with others, to help others, to understand others, to have deep compassion for others. These are all very beautiful things. And if you are an empath, you very well may be on a path to serve, or to hold a certain frequency. So people who are strong empaths, they have the ability to really master their own frequency, their own energy, and therefore to emit this energy that is going to have an effect on the collective, because we are all affecting each other. We are all connected on the deepest level. So what we do matters. We're all these little fragments, right? And so sometimes we can feel very small and insignificant, but no one is insignificant. Everyone matters. You matter. The energy that you emit out into the world affects everything else around you, and it has like a ripple effect. So your energy will most affect the people closest to you, but then it goes out and it fades out a little bit, but still is affecting all. So your energy, your frequency is very important. And if you are an empath, you have the ability to be a master of your own frequency, to align your frequency to the exact tune that you want to emit. So we are so powerful, but it can be very overwhelming to be an empath. So the next thing I want to talk about is just learning to trust what you feel. So when we are an empath, the energy that we are receiving is coming from energy form. So we can get a feeling, a knowing, and it's important to start to trust that feeling, even though, and despite the fact that what we are feeling will oftentimes, many times, go against any logic reason. So for example, I want to show you what in my personal life, how this happened to me recently. About a year ago, I got this very consistent, clear energy, information, knowing that I would leave that beautiful apartment I was living in. And I didn't understand it because there was no logical support for this. The landlord said we could stay again. I was together with my partner. We didn't have plans to move. Nothing logically in a fact form was supporting this feeling I kept getting. And so I just kept listening, and the house that was so beautiful started to become more dreary. It started to become, it had the feeling of it's time to go, get ready to move on. And actually the dirt outside, trees started to be cut down, the dirt outside was being dug up and earthed up. And for me as an empath, I'm very connected to nature, and anytime I am around trees being cut down or earth being dug up, it gives me a very uncomfortable sensation. It is not a welcoming sensation. And it's interesting that when it's time for me to go, recently the signal has been, trees being cut down, something with the earth outside of me. So feeling into this, I didn't understand it. And I would tell my partner, like, I feel energetically like we will not be here a year from now. And he didn't understand, whether there was no facts, no logic to support this. And then sure enough, now I am in my own place. I have left that apartment. And so if we listen, if we tune in to listen and trust what we are being guided, we have this superpower. We have this extra guidance, and it's so beautiful because energy is information, and we can really hone in on these gifts. We can strengthen them. We can root into the energy, creating our own energy, and so it's very, very beautiful. So the only thing I do want to mention is that sometimes if you're an empath and you are beginning to work with your energy, it might be hard to differentiate, I can't say it, between your energy and others' energy. So that's why these practices of bringing your energy back to yourself are so important, because if you are feeling something and you are not practicing grounding, not practicing bringing your energy back, you might have great confusion. Is this coming from me? Is it coming from outside? Where is this coming from? And so this is a distortion of the information. So these practices of grounding yourself and bringing your energy back to yourself, sealing your energy up to shield energy from coming in and out, are powerful for you to be able to make the difference, to understand, is this my energy or other energy? And so a good practice, even at the beginning, is to, or all the time, is to intentionally bring your energy back to yourself, and then just say out loud or in your mind, I return energy back to sender that is not mine. So you are, with your intention, returning any energy that is not yours back to sender. And then when you are really feeling centered in your own energy, then feel into your body. What are you feeling now? This is yours. So it's important to learn about your energy versus other people's energy. And then after you really are solidified in that practice, it is so powerful. You can just have this compass, this beautiful compass. What is the energy here? And the energy here is important, whether it's person or place or even object. There are objects I feel strong energy from as well. So this is important because, again, I said that you are meant to be a master at your own frequency. So this is how you do that. You are feeling into the information coming through the energy, and you are knowing, is this for me or not for me? Is this in alignment with the energy I want to have and hold and feel and be and emanate, or not? So it's very powerful. There are just so many benefits, honestly, for being an empath. But I know, so as a child, I want to share this story to just deepen connection with you. So as a child, I was born this radiant, happy baby. My parents would always tell me that I always had this huge smile on my face. And that is resonating because that is my natural core essence now, as I've come back to myself, as I have cleared the enmeshment with other people's energy, especially partners. And oftentimes, side note, empaths can be anxiously attached or even avoidantly attached. So that often comes because we feel energy so strongly. We need to protect ourselves from our environment, the energy of our childhood. And so we might have to make that decision that I talked about earlier on in videos, where the ego has to make sense. It has to make what is happening to you mean something. And if you feel very deeply, feel energy very deeply, then you are going to be very affected even by subtle things that are happening in the home, and the chances of you having to make that decision, the ego making it mean, is it other people's fault or my fault, is more high. It has a higher chance of happening. So there is a correlation. So as a child, I felt energy very deeply, and I could feel the energy around me was one of deep pain and suffering, deep pain and suffering. And it was a very intense energy. And I remember as a child being very quiet, observing, feeling. And without guidance, it was a very confusing and painful time for me. And in fact, I did have to make that choice, and I made the choice that it was my fault that everything was happening, that there was so much pain and I wasn't being met. My needs weren't being met. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel seen. And so that was the root of my own anxious attachment. But what is beautiful, so let's close with something beautiful. What's beautiful about being a child who deeply felt energy and could feel the depth of deep pain and despair and unconsciousness around me, I know and I am called to really work with the darker energies. So if you are an empath and you have experienced a very dark childhood or a very painful childhood, you also maybe being called to be powerful, because not everyone has the ability to work with these darker energies, to transmute them, to go through the deep darkness and come out into the light. Okay, but you, if you are resonating with what I'm saying, you do have the power to. You are powerful. This is an incredible ability. So I know that my experiences with darker energies as a child, feeling in all the pain, feeling all of the denser energies, I was immersed in darkness, and I am very easily able now to traverse the darkness, the darker energies, the pain, the chaos, the despair, the depression. It's powerful to be able to move through those energies, because life is full of those types of energies. And so when you have this power, you can move powerfully through the world. You can overcome more easily. But all of this takes deep practice and dedication to self. In fact, everything that I speak about requires devotion and dedication to self, to coming home to meet yourself, to compassionately care and love for self, to integrate all parts of yourself, to know that all parts of yourself are serving. All of the shadow parts of ourselves, and I'm going to be making a lot of videos about the shadow because it's shadow season, baby, for me. I lost my train of thought. So the shadow, the darker energies are not happening in vain. This is something that if you are experiencing, if you're resonating with what I'm saying, you have a very beautiful gift, and it does require awareness and practice, connection to self, connection to love, learning how to work with energy, learning what you are feeling, learning how to ground yourself, learning how to set boundaries, learning how to distinguish between what is yours and others. All these practices are important, and the more that you work on all of these practices, the easier it will be for you to move about in the world, to navigate energies, and to be a master of your own frequency. And that is so powerful. The last thing I'm going to say is to be a master at your own frequency is to be powerful co-creator. You have the ability, when you master your own frequency, to draw in whatever it is that you want, to create whatever it is that you want. You are powerful as an empath who is practiced, who learns, who understands, who works with energy. And one of the most powerful things, last, I have so much to say about this. I could talk forever. So one of the most beautiful things about being an empath is once you learn all the things that I'm talking about, when you become across darker energies, denser energies, painful energies, you can become this torch of light. It does not have to penetrate you. We can learn as empaths to be in the presence of any type of energy. But because we are so grounded, rooted in, and we are so connected to self, we have learned to shield our own energy, we can be so powerful in the world because these energies don't have to penetrate us. That's what you're working on now. This should be your goal if you are just learning about being an empath, and is to learn how to bring your energy back to yourself and how to be in the presence of unlove, of darker energies, and not allow that to penetrate you, so that as a master of your own frequency vibration, you still emanate out that master frequency, whatever that is. So for me, that master frequency is love, is Christ consciousness. And so I can emanate that out, be in that, hold that in the presence of anything. So that is a superpower, my friend. So, okay, I don't want this video to get too long. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'd love to be here with you. If you like this video, like it and support me by subscribing, and I will love to connect with you soon. Thank you. Come back on here and explain something so important, cannot be left out. So when you are an empath, you are, as we said, picking up on other people's energy. And so how this often plays out for empaths is you are so deeply affected by what is happening out in the world around you. So as a child, for example, I was so aware of the suffering in the world, of the injustice for innocent lives, innocent souls, men, women, children. For example, I was very aware of genocide as a young child, you know, of Hitler and what happened in those times. And I remember being so in my body, just feeling this of energy, overwhelming energy of pain, other people's pain, and realizing that I was a fellow human, that these were my fellow humans, beautiful souls, that they were deserving of dignity, of the pursuit of happiness, of basic needs, of basic rights. And so it was a very painful experience for me as a child. And I had to learn something very important, and that is what I want to speak to you about now. So it is beautiful and important as humans to have compassion for other humans, for the suffering. This is, you know, Christ consciousness, to have this beautiful depth of compassion for other humans. And also, we cannot let that become our vibration. And here's why. So one of the most important things that I learned is when I was tapping into the energy, the emotional pain of others' suffering, deep suffering. There's so much deep suffering occurring right now on the planet. And what I learned was that by tapping into that suffering and staying there, I was aligning to the frequency of suffering. And so because we were all connected, all intertwined, affecting each other, what we emanate affects other people. So it was actually not helping those people at all to remain in that frequency of feeling deep suffering for their suffering, because all I was doing was adding to suffering, adding to pain. And that was not what I wanted. What I wanted was to bring those people love and safety and light. And so I changed after learning from important spiritual teachers. I studied from so many teachers, I don't even know at this point. I wish I could name a teacher for you to learn this from. But it is me. So what I learned was that what would really help those that were suffering to embody love for them. So just we're pivoting, tweaking our energy and the way we emanate energy. So and embody energy. So now, for example, when I become aware of deep suffering from my fellow humans, I will compassionately acknowledge that, and then I go right into love. And I will actually evoke love and send it to that group of people, that place, that land. And so I am emitting love. I am sending them peace, abundance, safety. So now I am contributing to the field, to the collective in a way that is actually going to help people on this very small level, of course. You know, I am just one person. I had so many dreams as a child of saving people and being this, you know, incredible warrior for justice, for humanity. And I had to be really humbled at a certain point into how far those abilities really could go. But we all have this ability to be aware that we are not helping people by feeling their suffering and then remaining there and emanating out suffering and pain. We're actually adding to a frequency on the earth of suffering and pain. And what we want to do, what uplifts, what makes changes, is to have this frequency of love light, of just honoring people's humanity, honoring your own truth, that you know that all human life is sacred, is beautiful, is worthy of peace and safety and love and dignity and justice. And so this is so important, because I know for me, this took me the majority of my life to really understand and to change. And what happened is, when I changed that frequency, my life stopped becoming so painful because I was so connected. It was so important to me. I felt that I was abandoning my fellow humans, all these fellow souls, by not paying close attention to the suffering. I felt it was so important, and it is. We all should care about others' suffering. But I realized that for me to actually be of service, to help, I needed to guard my own energy, be aware of my own energy, because the energy we continuously connect to starts to become us. It affects our thoughts, feelings, actions. So if we want to bring more pain and suffering into the world, then we can focus on that. If we want to bring more love and healing and lightness and support for justice, then we need to be emanating that frequency. And so even now, still powerfully, this will occur to me. And I do want to say that I think it's beautiful when something pops into your mind and you are aware of deep suffering. This will happen to me not by watching the news. I don't watch the news because as an empath, this is another good tip. Sorry this video is so long, but there's so many good things to say. So if you are an empath, it is not really going to serve you to watch the news, because if you are an empath, you are well aware of the suffering that's happening on the planet. At 5 years old, I was well aware of the suffering, deep suffering on this planet. It is not secret to me, not secret to you if you are an empath. So these type of things are not going to serve you because you are already aware. The news will serve people who are not aware. They need to become aware of the suffering. But as an empath, you know about suffering. But so even though I don't watch the news, people will tell me things sometimes. I always joke around and say, you know, if something really big happens, if aliens land, someone will tell me because I'm around people so often. What was I saying? So I'll be in the car driving, and then all of a sudden suffering will come in and hit me. So it's like I'll become aware of like what's happening in a different land, and it's very painful, lots of suffering. And so when this comes into my attention, I know, okay, this is asking for my attention. So I do the practice. Instead of feeling into the pain and just sitting with the pain and connecting to the suffering of others, I have compassion for the suffering, deep compassion, and then I bring my energy back to self, and I feel love, evoke love, peace, and then I emit that out in the direction of whoever or whatever is coming to my mind. So this is very powerful. This is another part of learning boundaries, how to protect our own energy, and to also learn consequence to our action, to be intentional, to become the master of our frequency, and to know what it is we are putting out and the effects of what we are putting out. So this is so powerful. I wanted to come back on here and just really explain this to you. So thank you.